Good morning all. We have a nice beautiful 60 some degree morning here. A little bit overcast, but it's supposed to clear up today. We got the strong back built yesterday. I added these cleats on after I measured up the location of all the framing members. So I'm bringing those all up out of the basement, and then what we're going to do is each place I have a mark like this. We're going to drop one of these guys in. Again, it's centered on the strong back, and then we'll move from this side. And the pre-drilled holes I'm going to put in, got one here already. We're just going to shoot a screw in to hold everything in alignment, and then we'll have the whole boat frame sitting out here, and then we can start doing some more assembly work. So as we go along, I'll update you. Well, so far we've got all the frame members just set into place. I then took the two keelson boards and dry fit them in to make sure everything stayed in alignment. What I found was a couple of these middle boards in here were offset in one direction. The way I found that out is I took my tape measure on that corner, hooked it on this corner, and brought it down here and overhung the tape measure so it'll pull some weight on it so I can make a straight line. Turns out that this board right here has just a very, very slight bow in it. So it was pulling everything out of alignment. It was pulling, I think, the third, fourth, and fifth ones out this way about a quarter to a half inch. So I popped this one back out of the groove. The other board's a lot straighter, and everything went into alignment. So now what I'm going to do is shoot the screws in on the strong back to hold everything in alignment, and then we should be able to pop those back in. And the 2x4 should have enough flex in it that it should bend into alignment when we put it in there. After we get that done, we'll start fitting the transom in the bow, and then we can start looking at doing the shear clamp and chine log. I am hoping to get everything dry fit today and possibly get plywood on the outside. I have to go to a family birthday party this afternoon, so I don't know exactly how far I'm going to get, but got the rest of the morning to work on it, so hopefully we'll get pretty far. Okay, we've run into our first problem already. I'm in the process of setting the transom into place. Oh, it's the head of the chicken. In setting the transom into place, I realized that I forgot one part of all that compound angles. If you notice, when I come across here at the level, you see it's sitting flat on there. Bring it out to here, and there is a gap. I forgot that there. I have it lined up so it hits in the same spot on both sides. We can take the planer, hand planer, and plane that down square, but I'm going to have that gap in there. I'll either cut a thin piece of wood to shim in, the glue inside there to take up that space, or when I flip the boat over, I'll just pack that full of epoxy, and then I'll run a couple strips of glass up the inside to make sure it's a strong joint. But that's where we're at now. Got everything else screwed into place here. I got some long leg screws I'm going to run in the back here. Well, I still have to cut that angle off on oh, what the heck are those called again? The keelsons. Or the stringers, depending on what terminology you want to use. I'm sure there's a difference between a keelson and a stringer, but I use them interchangeably right now. So we'll cut the angle off on there so we can get that butted up, then we'll run a couple of long leg screws in from the outside, and we'll countersink them just a hair so we can epoxy over them. So that's where we're at now. Okay, we got everything cut, squared up, lines marked, and then these are what I'm going to use to hold the transom on and the bow on to the chine logs. No, keelsons. God, I'll get it right one of these days. Say they have some pretty good holding strength. There's supposedly somewhere in here it says the same holding strength. Oh, there we go. Stronger than a 1/2 inch diameter leg screw and twice as fast. Which I don't care about the twice as fast, as long as it's just because I used to use 1/2 inch leg screws when I did the gray dory If these are just as strong, it'll be a lot easier to put those smaller ones in than trying to hog out those big holes for a 1/2 inch leg screw. So I'm going to pre-drill the holes through the transom, and then we'll zip them into the keelsons. Later. So I didn't see the bit inside the package, and I was using the wrong size bit, so I slightly stripped that one out. I think there's enough left in there. I'm just going to leave it backed out right there for now. And then once I go to put it all back together, I'll countersink that hole a little bit with a spade bit. Because this one, even though it looks countersunk, that's just where it pulled into, and it's still sitting proud up here on top. So I'll countersink those in a little bit later on with a spade bit, and when we go to do the final assembly, we should be able to zip that one in to hold it. We'll put those, the other two in over here, and then we'll go grab the bow section, bring it out, and try hooking that up. And then we'll start shooting screws across the top here, and then we'll start putting the shear clamp and shine log on. Well, we were cutting the angle for the bow to go on, and as you can see, it's at such a sharp angle the saw doesn't go quite all the way through. That's where it's nice to have one of these guys. A lot of people think, you know, we don't need hand saws anymore, we got all these power tools. Well, in situations like this where you just need to take a little bit more off, it's real nice to be able to grab out your hand saw and just saw it off. When I stop recording, it's just a lot easier to saw without holding a phone. Well, we got the bow put on now. I had to countersink those holes right away because it was such a long distance to go through that even with those 6-inch screws, if I would have just came up flush with the plywood on the bow, I would only have like an inch, inch and a quarter going in. So I countersunk those right away so I could get a good bite, pull it in tight. Well, you can sort of see it's slowly starting to look like a boat. We'll start working on the shear clamp and shine logs. I'm going to have to do some more creative stuff up here because the same thing, I got these angles over here a little out of whack, so we're going to have to sort of just make this up as we go along. So we'll see how it turns out. With epoxy and wood, you can make anything turn out in the end.